Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Akarkadash. Shalom to the elders for preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely as well too. I say shalom to the Akim out there, and this is a sit-down lesson that I want to bring up this recent news article, and it's dealing with the Wall Street, the stocks exchange over there in New York, as of today, of September 15, 2023, earlier today, at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And this was published by Several Men and Samantha Subin from CNBC.com. And it reads: the Dow Jones shed nearly 300 points Friday, and the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq suffered a second straight week of losses. It says the stocks fell Friday as investors wrap up a volatile week ahead of the Federal Reserve policy meeting. Right, because I believe the meeting is next week on September the 20th. As they continue to discuss if they're going to raise the interest rates or is it going to remain the same. Because you know how the markets, how the markets react of the Federal Reserve meetings and what's going on economically and data statistic wise, and that's how the markets react, if it's going to react in a positive way or a negative way. But continuing on, it says the Dow Jones Industrial Average slid 288.87 points, or by 0.83% to 34,618.24. At its low, the index completely wiped out Thursday's 332 points rally. It says the S&P 500 was lower than 1.22% to 4,450.32, and the Nasdaq Composite dropped 1.56% to 13,733. And it says the Dow Jones closed out a positive week, up by 0.12%. However, the S&P and Nasdaq both suffered a second straight week of losses, lower by 0.16% and 0.39% respectively. It says information technology was the worst performing sector in the S&P 500, Dow Jones nearly 2%, although shares fell more than 4% a day after the software firm posts a better than expected quarterly results. Shares of ARM Holdings were lower by 4.2% in one day after its successful public debut. The auto stocks General Motors and Shelton's Nevada rose Friday, while the four, including lower thousands of members of the United Auto Workers, went on strike after failing to reach a deal with the automakers Thursday night. It said elsewhere the Lindner shares slid 2.5%. The home construction firm outpost third quarter results that beat on the top and bottom lines on late Thursday. It says on the economic front, the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey shows a one-year inflation expectations dropped to 3.1% in September, tied for the lowest since January 2021. Also, the 5-year outlook fails to 2.7%, matching its lowest since 2020. The Wall Street is phrasing through a mixed batch of economic data ahead of Fed's policy decision. It's set to announce a September 20. The central bank is widely expected to hold rates steady next week, but traders will seek an insight into how policymakers are thinking about inflation from here. On Thursday's August Producer Price Index shows a core PPI was held in check last month, though the headlines number rose more than expected. Meanwhile, August Consumer Price Index was Wednesday showed the core CPI was slightly higher than expected. Hotter than expected on a monthly basis. The initiative of investors' enthusiasm around inflation data is coming in not too far out of expectations. On one hand, the inflation data was hotter than expected, but investors shrugged off that earlier this week, thinking that the Feds will not be inclined to raise rates again next week based on the August inflation data. The AX, AXS investors Greg Bosco. But I think having a disguise in addition, the additional economic data that summed out, as well as ongoing geopolitical pressures and other developments, we are seeing today investors pulling back and taking a break. Basuk added. So yeah, as of today, we seen the markets crumble, especially right along with the S&P 500 and Nasdaq suffer its second straight loss weekly. As it says again, the Dow Jones surged nearly 300 points Friday, as of September 15th, 2023, on Friday, 4:30 p.m. So we will see what's going to happen on September 20th as a Federal Reserve, as they have their meeting, if the inflation is going to remain the same, or if the interest rates are going to remain the same to continue to tackle inflation, even though the inflation was hotter than expected, I believe, from August, and the consumer prices as well too on top of that. So we're going to see what's the Federal Reserve on what decision that they're going to make starting September 20th of next week, as they continue to tackle the inflation, or they going to raise the interest rates, or it's going to remain the same. So with that, hopefully this sit-down lesson was edifying. I would like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem Karkadash. Shalom to the elders for preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely as well too. And until next time, I will say shalom.